what's up? It's Joe Raiti from Raiti's Rides. I am here at this special location at the Milford Proving Grounds in Michigan, and guess what? We are here to celebrate the 70th anniversary of America's true sports car, but also show you what is fresh and where the brand is taking the new Corvette. And this is what I have. This is it. This is the new 2024 Chevrolet C8 Corvette. This is the long-awaited E-Ray. But before we get into this all-wheel drive hybrid performance setup, let's talk about what's going on here. So 70 years, going back to 1953, released in New York at the Motorama. It really won people's hearts right from the get-go. Now, what's interesting is that over the years, the Corvette has had some big, major moments. And right now, we are on the cusp of some new, exciting moments that are taking place, and that's why we're here. Think about it. 1955, that was the first year that a small block Chevy V8 was placed into a Corvette. You go into the C2, the second generation, and we see the mighty big blocks. Of course, fast forward to the C4 in the 1980s and early 90s, and we talk about, like in 1985, the L98, which brought tune port fuel injection to the Chevrolet Corvette, or of course 1990, the C4 ZR1 with that quad cam, overhead cam engine, really bringing performance and high revving technology. Now that's not the end of the story. You go into obviously moments like the C6 with the return of the ZR1 with supercharged power, and then of course we can't forget the last of the C7 generation going out with a big bang. Of course, that ZR1 making one last return for the 7th generation with 755 horsepower. Well, guess what? We've already brought you all of the craziness and magic of the C8, the first mid-engine Corvette. We were even here not too long ago talking about the LT6 and the Z06 Corvette that redlines to almost 9,000 RPM. Well, guess what? The E-Ray is now here to take a spot in the lineup to where really, for the first time in 70 years of the Corvette, there really is a C8 Corvette for everybody. Now, of course, many other brands have taken hybrid technology and try to bring some type of performance. This particular car is the one that has naturally aspirated V8 power and electrification. So let's go ahead, let's dive into this E-Ray, find out what makes it unique, what makes it special, and is this that America's sports car you should be buying? Let's go ahead and dive right in. First of all, right off the bat, you're gonna get your extra width. So we're talking about 3.6 inches of extra width. It's going to mimic that width off the Z06. But what I like about it, and we're going to talk about this a little at the front of the business, is you do have some unique style to the E-Ray. This particular one that I do have for us on display does have some optional carbon flash metallic add-ons that kind of blends the lines between this and a Z06. But the great news is I have another one I'm going to show you where you can see what a standard front end of an E-Ray is going to look like. But you have that extra width, of course, full LED headlights, turn signals, daytime running lamps. We've already talked all about that. You have that massive corner air intake, all functionality. So if you're worried, well, Joe, this Corvette has electrification. Are we going to lose functionality? Is there a bunch of fake things stuck on it? No. This is where Chevrolet is taking electrification, throwing it at the C8, and then raising the bar when we talk about performance. But I love that carbon flash metallic, that full functionality, very aggressive front end. And I think that's the good news, is because remember, this is basically going to be taking the spot in the lineup of the Grand Sport. And traditionally, the Grand Sport has had that wider body of the Z06 with the standard engine. But with this E-Ray, you get the look, that wider look of the Z06. But we're talking about this is going to be the fastest production Corvette in a straight line. But I'm not ready to tell you the numbers yet. Let's continue. We come across that low front end. Love the way it's got like a stealth fighter appearance. And I think that's something that a lot of people are going to like, is that this is not going to stick out like a sore thumb. It's going to accentuate all of what the C8 already brings. Like I said, those massive air intakes all the way across the frontal area of the vehicle, the carbon flash metallic, and then of course on the nose, the cross flags going back to 1953 when the Chevrolet Corvette was unveiled. And I love the way you have that heritage. And then remember, for quite some time now, Corvettes come from one place and one place only. That's going to be Bowling Green, Kentucky. Now, as we rise on up, the great news is, if you were worried, well, Joe, they're putting an electric motor in the C8 Corvette. I'm probably going to lose that versatility. Well, guess what? You are wrong. You're still going to have a front-mounted trunk space, unlike some of the other vehicles that have tried electrification on a performance level, where you lose that space, or that space was never even there to start with. Now, as we come around the bend, we do have some special things to talk about. First of all, of course, with the electrification, we're going to have all-wheel drive. So this is the first ever all-wheel drive Corvette that's going to give us that blistering launch control and 0 to 60 and quarter mile. Now, when we talk about the wheel and tire setup, one thing you're automatically going to notice is that you're going to get standard the carbon ceramic brake package. So you're getting those pizza-sized rotors. And remember, the whole benefit of carbon ceramic brakes, which is technology that was once upon a time only on Formula One cars, is that they dissipate heat very effectively. They give you ultimate braking capability, but it also, they're lighter. So it's actually going to help with the rotating mass. I love on this particular one, you got that nice satin steel gray style finish with the Corvette badge. Of course, Brembo, a very big name in braking. Two-piece rotors. I even like the way on these wheels with that carbon flash metallic paint, a little bit of polished lip all the way around. You got that forged badge there and the Corvette name. And I think that's another thing I like about the C8 is the way you could personalize this car. So not only can you now have a new different C8 to buy, the E-Ray, you can still personalize it just like the other C8 Corvettes. One thing you're going to notice, you get the Michelin Pilot Sport all season tires. Now, there will be performance variants as well, but this is how secure Chevrolet feels with this setup of having the all-wheel drive. And guess what? Not only do we get to show it to you, we're going to go for a little spin out here at the test track to really see what these all seasons can do with the all-wheel drive performance. And then if you're wondering, well, Joe, what's the size of this wheel? You're looking at 20 inches up front. And I think with this particular color, of course, it just knocks it right out of the park. We have the magnetic ride suspension. Remember, General Motors was the ones that did magnetic ride suspension right off the bat in that late 80s, early 90s time period. And now you find lots of brands using it. So GM and Chevrolet have really brought a lot of technology that you find on other cars. But guess what? It all started with their products. Now, as we come down the side, the rest of the look from the side is going to be that usual C8 stance. Of course, I like the way they did on this particular convertible, the carbon flash metallic around the window frame. You're also going to have your carbon flash metallic on those massive side air intakes. And you'll notice right off the bat, we do have a special badge, that E-Ray badge, tasteful. Normally, say if this was a Z06, you would have a Z06 badge there. So I'm glad that they came up with a unique badge. And Chevrolet does some amazing badges with the way that they're styled and everything. So they did a really great job with that. You'll notice on the side sill how it has that extension and then it tapers back to make that ease of operation. And that's one of the things when you're comparing this to a lot of other performance cars, this is such a versatile vehicle that I think you're going to find, especially if you live up north, that when it snows, you'll still be able to enjoy this car where everybody else will have their cars packed up away for the winter. Now, coming back towards the rear, if you look at the rear tire setup, like I said, that massive carbon ceramic brake rotor looking fantastic, 21-inch wheel. And another thing to point out is that, remember, Chevrolet worked with Michelin. These are the widest all-season radials. So that's something that is very unique to this car and is going to still give you gobs of grip, even though they're not some sticky Cup 2 Michelin. Now, coming around towards the rear, of course, you get that same great wide body. We start out wide, we finish off wide. You notice you're going to have all LED lighting, all the functionality, and that quad tip exhaust. So I'm glad that one thing that they did is not put the center exhaust with the 4 tips. I like the way they split it to still have that differentiator from the back of the vehicle. You'll notice all the aero, carbon flash metallic on the Corvette badge, and then that massive rear diffuser. Now, if you're wondering, well, where does the electric motor reside? What am I still going to get my V8 sound? What is going on here? Here's the good news. The good news is I don't have to show you on this convertible because we know that I can't pop anything to show you even the engine. But what we do have is an amazing cutaway to show you all the inner bits. So let's go ahead, let's talk performance on this new E-Ray. All right, guys, time for now us to showcase all of the great engineering and technology, and I'm so glad that Chevrolet has this cutaway for us because it's going to make it a lot easier. But before I get into the mechanics behind this and the technology, I do want to keep my promise and show you how on the front end of the E-Ray, you could see what is going to be body color match. So where we started, this had the optional carbon flash metallic. You could see that with the body color match, it actually is really going to give it a nice, unique look coming at you down the road. You'll notice that it's wider, like a Z06, but you'll also notice that, hey, something is different about it. But let's go ahead and get down into the nitty gritty. So I'm going to have Lori kind of swing around and I'm going to come behind. The first thing I want to point out is that you're going to have your motor, of course, mounted up front. Now, what's awesome about this setup, we're not talking about this is something new that Chevrolet just threw together because it's all about going towards, totally green and eco-friendly and all this. This is something that Chevrolet and the Corvette team has been working on way before we were talking about zero emissions and all that. So that's one thing that they really want to make sure people understand is that this isn't some compromised effort to make somebody happy. Who they really want to make happy is you, the customer and the performance owner of a Corvette. And that's where that performance is rising up. Now, right off the bat, this E-Ray only weighs about 300 pounds more than your standard Stingray. So that really shows that with this system, you're going to see unique touches. First of all, with that electric motor, the casing is magnesium. Think about this. You're not going to find other hybrid units that are focusing on using magnesium. And because it's a magnesium casing, you have aluminum screws, and then the actual cover on the bottom for the battery is lightweight carbon fiber. But you'll notice just where that central motor is different than what you find on some of the other performance hybrid setups where they might use two electric motors. We have the one, and it was sort of like a non-negotiable to make sure that we kept that front-mounted trunk space, that frunk space. Now, what's interesting about this unit is that it actually is a dry sump system. So we've talked about what a dry sump system is here on Raiti's Rides when we talk about, V8s and all that great kind of stuff. But what you're basically going to have is your own separate pumping and cooling system for that motor. So when we talked about the heat exchangers and all that functional cooling at the front, not only is it just about cooling the LT2, but now we have a separate system. And you'll notice that's what they're showcasing here is that separate cooling system for the actual front mounted motor and then also for that battery pack. Now, as we come around, I love the way with these cutouts, you can see all the work that goes into making this such a rigid structure and also one that's going to perform. And I think what's really going to blow your mind is a lot of times when we talk about batteries and we talk about electrification, you'll notice like stuff everywhere. The engineers, the designers had to make sure that they focus on keeping all of this very central and separate from one another. And we're going to talk about more what that means. Now, as we come around, I'm going to drop down, and I first want to point out that this is not how your E-Ray will come. This is for display purposes. So what you'll see behind that plexiglass window there, that is the battery pack. Look at how compact it is. It's actually 4 modules, and basically what they did was they took that tunnel, which we've seen in other cutaways of the C8, and they've utilized that space, but all of that you would normally find displaced throughout a whole chassis is very central. So think about what we're doing about center of gravity. Think about what we're doing for the weight, that extra weight. We're bringing it to the center of the vehicle because remember, the whole point of a C8 Corvette having that mid-engine is to centralize the weight of the vehicle. But what's interesting is that this battery pack is produced right down the street, Brownsville, Michigan, and then developed for this E-Ray. So nice to see everything coming together within General Motors, within Chevrolet, and not being, taken from all over the place. Now, when it comes to how the front communicates to the rear, it's actually going to be totally separate. And you got to think about all of the programming with the ECU and everything to get that torque distribution right. Another thing that's fascinating is that this E-Ray won't have a gas guzzler tax. You know that on your LT2 and your C8, it has that mode where it runs on 4 cylinders. Well, guess what? This vehicle does that as well. But what's awesome is like, say you're cruising down the highway and you're running in 4-cylinder mode. Now what's going to happen is if you got to go uphill and you step on the throttle, before the other 4 cylinders kick in, the electric motor up front will take over that job, and that will actually help you keep the efficiency but also get the extra power. Another thing that's going to be different, if you think that this is going to drain and then you'll never have the power, you'll have to drive it 200 miles to get the power back, no. With the regen braking, with the way that when you lift off throttle, it's going to help with that regeneration of the battery pack. They've been testing this, they've been lapping it, and they've been allowing it to showcase just how quickly it recharges itself so that you could have that ultimate power every time you get on throttle. Now, as we come back, obviously, a lot of people are wondering, well, Joe, what about my V8? I want my V8 engine, and I think this is the nice thing that you get with the E-Ray is you're going to have that LT2 pushrod V8. Now, when we look at the combo deal between the electric motor and that LT2 V8, you're looking at 655 horsepower combined. Now, when it comes to torque, it's 595 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60, like I promised I was going to mention, is 2.5 seconds with that all-wheel drive clawing you down the road or down a snowy path if you're living up north. Quarter mile, 10.5 seconds. So that really is that showcase. And then, like I said, you have a new mode added called stealth mode. And with stealth mode, that's going to allow you to run totally quiet. And what that allows is you to drive on pure EV up to 45 miles per hour. And then once you go over 45, that's when the combination is going to happen. But what I want to do now is I want to jump inside and show you some of the things that you're going to find in your E-Ray, because guess what? We're going to be going on throttle together very shortly. So let's go ahead and get to it. Here we are sitting inside this other pre-production convertible C8 E-Ray Corvette. I know you're saying to yourself, well, Joe, I have my mouth watering based off of the performance numbers, based off the style, and based off of it being a mid-engine Corvette. But of course, how much is it? What's the MSRP? Well, that is really the shocking thing, pun intended. MSRP starting for a coupe, an E-Ray coupe, is going to be right around $104,000. Remember, that's with carbon ceramic brake rotors standard. And then the convertible, like the one that we're in, will start around $111,000. But let's see what you get and what's unique to the E-Ray, to the door panels. Obviously, you're going to get that amazing attention to detail. Love the way they did all the stitching, especially the white contrast stitching, the two-tone, and the carbon fiber. And you'll be able to fit at least 4 electrified Twinkies in that door pocket. Now, going from the door panel to the dash, this is the highest level of fit and finish of any generation of the Corvette, especially on the passenger side. You still have that large divider, but let me show you what's unique. A new infotainment screen display setup specific for the E-Ray. So right now you have your gauges. This will show you when you're using your electric output, the all-wheel drive and all that, but then also you have your dyno screen. So here's where we have our output of electric motor and the V8 with the torque delivery numbers, and then you have extra data where you can see how much charge was used, keep swiping, all the different things with RPM of the E all-wheel drive system, the power, and then your battery temp and E-motor temp. So really cool to have all of those displays. The rest of it is going to be that very unique setup to the C8 Corvette. And then really the cherry on top of all this, you get to be snuggled by these amazing seats with the carbon fiber, wonderful bolstering, and this really is going to continue that daily accessibility of the C8. But why don't you come over to the business end? I want to show you behind this E-Ray carbon fiber steering wheel. Hey guys, business time. I'm loving this C8 E-Ray. You have your sill plate with the E-Ray badge. Love the way they use that sort of like charged battery symbol there. Seats are phenomenal. Remember, I'm 6 feet tall, plenty of room, and I got the hard top up. Steering wheel, the carbon fiber, the leather, the E-Ray badge on the actual flat bottom portion of the wheel, and then look at our dash. We still have that same great dash, but the new thing is going to be the hybrid battery charge display on the left-hand side. Still have your head-up display and everything else well laid out, but why don't we go ahead, let's check out the frunk, and then I'm ready to go on throttle in this new E-Ray. All right, guys, I think one of the biggest questions we're going to get is, are we losing that front-mounted trunk? Guess what? You're going to be very surprised. Now, one thing I want to point out is for 2024, this is something new. Not the front-mounted trunk, but you actually have a self-cinching frunk lid or front-mounted trunk lid. So I push the button, you'll hear a couple clicks, and then now you're just going to lift up. I do want to preface this is a pre-production, and that is the kill switch for the 12-volt battery. So that's not something you're going to see on your E-Ray. This is just a pre-production. We're just thankful to be here with Chevrolet and the Corvette team. But here's the proof. The proof is in the eating of the pudding. You still get your front-mounted trunk and the space at the rear, just like you would get on a C8 Stingray Corvette. But you know what? When you go to close it, no longer do you have to go like that. It actually closes for you. And some people will find this out in many different ways, like myself. But you know what? It's now that time. It's actually time to go on throttle. So let's go ahead and see how this E-Ray performs compared to a standard C8. All right, guys, here we are. This is that first taste at the Milford Proving Ground of a historic moment in the Corvette lineage. I'm here with Aaron Link, the Chief Performance Manager, Chevrolet Performance Manager, gonna give us our first taste of not only stealth mode, but also all the other performance advantages that this brand new Chevrolet C8 Corvette E-Ray is gonna bring. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Aaron's gonna give us a taste of electrification in a Corvette. All right, guys, here we are inside the car. We've done the introductions. It's now time to see what stealth mode is about and also the rest of the performance in this Corvette E-Ray, the C8 E-Ray. Aaron, take it away.
Here we go, Joe.
So as you can see, stealth mode, living up to its name. You could do up to 45 miles an hour in stealth mode. What I love about it is you are getting some electrification sound to it, a very positive sound. But very, very different being in a Corvette. It's totally
eerie.
right, Aaron. It's totally different being in a Corvette with no sound.
It's eerie. It's still hard for us to get used to it. 70 years of V8s.
70 years. I know. Isn't that unbelievable? But this is the progression, right?
We still have it, so we got the best of both worlds, right?
Definitely.
All right, here we go.
Oh! Wow! That was one hell of an on throttle. And one thing I noticed right away is there's definitely a unique sound difference between this and your standard C8 Stingray. You're getting some type of electric motor sound blended in with the V8 rumble.
Exactly right. Yep. Yeah, so we want to showcase it. You know, it's part of why you buy this car.
Unique experience.
It's there. It has its own sound character inherently.
Yeah.
You know, it's a high voltage motor spinning around underneath your feet.
That's
so
awesome.
We want to take that sound and make it blend well with the V8 traditional sound we have.
I like it.
So what I like is you almost feel the car like pick itself up.
Sure,
It's
yeah.
got so much torque in the front now that it kind of does this speedboat feel that just then
just guides you like a cruise missile.
Yeah, it shoots you forward. So we'll do one more.
All right.
Just for
for that. Why not, right?
We're here. We have to.
That's right. Here we go. Yeah. Wow. This is definitely taking Corvette performance to another level. But what I like about it is that you guys are still keeping the lineup. You got the Z06, very unique with the LT6 and that flat plane crankshaft. You're still gonna have the C8 Stingray with the LT2 for people that just want the old school push rod alone. But now we have the E-Ray, and it really fills in all the gaps to make a formidable lineup, I think, against anything else. And this really is the only performance hybrid V8 setup.
Naturally aspirated.
Naturally aspirated.
Correct.
Currently available. This is it.
That's right. So now, Joe, we'll go into an autocross setup.
Nice.
I'll stop here to talk through it. So this is our autocross course at Milford on our Black Lake
Nice.
Dynamics test area here. And this car today we have set up with the all-season tires. And they're the biggest all-season tires in the world, we believe.
Wow, that's
so it's
awesome.
the same size as the Z06, a 345
All
section
season.
with rear all season.
Wow.
So it's kind of been a fun project with Michelin to develop these. So, you know, on a day like today, again, 34
Sure.
degrees, no sunshine, the pavement is bone cold.
Yeah.
And we can come out here and do this, and you'll feel the all-wheel drive grind and pull and tug
Nice.
us through a turn. And that's a new experience for us.
Oh, I could just imagine. I could just imagine. And remember, you can't just show up here to check this out. We have special access thanks to everybody at Chevrolet and General Motors, and definitely Aaron.
Here we go.
Here we go.
All right. Just feel that.
Yeah, the grip, it's like clawing.
It just claws at the ground.
Nice. Wow. You pull it out, you feel it. It's like it's leaping out of the corner.
Exactly.
Wow. The front end, and I like the way you can still work with the rear.
Yep. Yeah, we've done a lot of work to do the all-wheel drive controls. Such
Wow.
that it's still a playful balance.
Unbelievable. This is phenomenal. The way the front and the back communicate with one another.
Yeah, we want to have it have a natural rear-wheel drive feel.
Yeah, oh, there you go. There you go.
All four wheels are doing their work.
Dang. So impressive. Wow. A four-wheel drift in this thing. That was spectacular. Guys, this has been one amazing historic experience here at the Milford Proving Ground with this 2024 C8 E-Ray. I'm definitely going to thank the whole Corvette team and Chevrolet for inviting us out so that we could share this special moment with you. Let me know what you think. Are you excited about this E-Ray? Are you even more intrigued by watching the on-throttle performance? Let me know in that comment section. But if you're new to the channel and you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. Promise you it's worthwhile. Come back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Radius Rides family. Of course, we got to give it to the person that electrifies everybody's life. Lori, working that camera like a champ. Show her some love in the comment section. Thank you, Lori, for all that you do. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.